Merry Christmas and happy breakfast to everyone. I'm having a holly jolly time right now. And what's the next dish we're making in our Christmas breakfast, Chef?
The next dish we're gonna make is a Panettone Bread Pudding.
Ooh. Sound good, anybody? Panettone bread pudding? Yeah? All right.
Okay,
And this is, of course, Chef Frank from Meli Cafe, and he's going to be demonstrating this.
I'm gonna be demonstrating this right now.
We can just kick it off. I'll get out of
Okay,
your way.
if you want, you can shift over here,
How about I shift over
whichever
here?
you
Let's
like.
trade places.
Okay.
Trading places.
Now, basically, we're gonna be making a Panettone bread pudding. For all of us who don't know, Panettone is basically originates in Italy. It's basically a yeast-raised dough, which has infused a little bit of a citrus, primarily orange, and then raisins. It sits for several months or so you can get that nice, I believe everyone when I open the box could smell that nice alcohol little smell to it because of all the fermenting that's been done while it's been sitting in there. This is a staple in my house during Christmas time, and I like to cook with it, whether I'm making a savory stuffing with it or bread pudding, or even in the French toast as we showed earlier, Panettone would be a phenomenal substitute. For this first, we're going to also need I'm going to make a brandy sauce with it, which I'm going to start with first because it's going to take a little bit longer. So first, we're going to put all the ingredients together. Let's power up over here.
I'll definitely get out of your way for the brandy sauce.
Actually, you won't really have to, because as I spoke before about the whole induction thing, you can sit, you can watch, we can splash, nothing's going to happen fire-wise. So
Keep talking about the induction. Feel free.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Basically, right here, what I have in this is about a half a cup of milk and a half a cup of cream. Just to save time, I mix them together. Okay, and now into here, we're going to add a little bit of sugar. This is about 4 tablespoons. And we're going to start stirring.
Is it bad that I already want some? I should have probably eaten before the show, huh? Maybe? Well, maybe next time.
Okay, now we're going to wait a couple minutes while that gets
While
warm.
we're waiting, if that's okay, I'd like to check in with the wide world of web
By all means.
Yeah, Chef Frank, someone online is asking, what do you eat for breakfast?
I have a weird routine in the morning for breakfast. My day begins at around 3:30, 4 o'clock. So I get hungry about 5. What I start off with is oatmeal. And to that oatmeal, I'll add almost anything under the sun. I'll add peanut butter, I'll add dried fruit, I'll add berries. So it's basically like a hearty meal because then I don't eat again until about 3. So usually I start off with oatmeal in the morning.
Oh, thank you.
So you wouldn't prepare something like this to break your fast on the morrow?
No, only on special days. While that's warming up, what I'm going to start doing is breaking the Panettone by hand. Usually people like to use knives. I like the rustic look, so I just like digging in there and just start breaking that apart. And as you can start smelling, I don't know if people in the audience can smell it while I'm breaking it apart, all that like fermented alcohol, fruit, and whatnot hitting you.
It's so much easier to just rip it apart.
Well, it's so much funner. I mean, that's why, like I said, the best thing about Christmas, you can have fun with your kids, family, just sit down. Like, what kid wouldn't want to tear a piece of bread apart with their hands? Or play around with a little egg yolk or making, that's why so much baking goes on in the holidays, you know, your gingerbread, your houses, your whatnot. So we'll keep doing this. That looks, we're gonna kick it up just a little bit to go faster.
Oh, that'll heat it up pretty quick.
Oh, that's fine.
Sounds like a challenge. We'll see what happens. These induction cooktops heat up pretty quickly, I think Frank will agree, right?
No, it's still cold. Now, I wouldn't recommend sticking your fingers into normal pots and pans because they do contain hot liquids. I mean, best way of doing it is taking the back of a spoon, sticking this, putting it on the back of your hand. This way you're avoiding any scalding burns. So you can consider that another tip for you.
That is a genius tip, I would say. It's like that's going to come back later for some reason.
Okay, it looks like enough. So that's all broken down. We'll go back over here. I hear it sizzling. So I would say this needs to go for about another minute or 2, but for the sake of TV, what we'll do now is move on to the next step. Right here I have a little bit of cornstarch, and that's going to be our thickening agent, or our binder as we like to call it. And the only liquid, like basically what we're trying to make is a slurry, which is basically a little bit liquid with a little bit of cornstarch. So
you
in
can
this,
get those at 7-Eleven, can't you?
that's a Slurpee.
Oh.
So to here, we're going to add a little bit of brandy. And now the one thing, like I said, that I do love about this, like if I was at a restaurant, if I was sauteing or making this, I would have to pull it right off the flame. But here, flame's still on. I got live brandy in my hand. And what I'm going to do now, as soon as this breaks down, just pour it in there. No fire, no flames, we're still alive.
We made it through the fire and flames.
There you go.
Fantastic.
So that's actually the showstopper then. Now, we're going to let that stir. And for this, since I got to focus on this bread pudding, I'm going to bring up one of my, let's call him my assistant for tonight, but actually he's my brother. Like I said, Christmas is about the holidays, so what better fun than to have one of your family members helping you out. So if Angela can come up the stage.
Let's give him a big hand, everybody.
All right, so all we're gonna do is turn this over here, and he'll just sit here and stir. So just turn that on. All right, just watch it, and don't let it get too high. All right. So while he's doing that, we'll come back over here to our bread pudding, and move on. Like we ripped our thing. Now, one recommendation I would have when making a bread pudding is I will let it get the bread stale. So what I would have done is I would have done this the night before. Let it sit there, and let it this way it can soak up all the nice custard later on. So we've got the bread here, and now we're gonna start making our custard. Back, similar principle to what we were talking about for the French toast, with a little bit of a difference. Here we're gonna use a whisk. We want the air, we want the volume in here to incorporate, because we basically want to fill this pan. So I got in here about 8 eggs for this recipe to start. Here I'll start whisking. We're not gonna use the whisk we were calling it, right? No whisk. We're just gonna use a standard whisk.
Whisking is for French toast.
Yes. This is a more heartier, more man's breakfast dish. So we'll start whisking.
You're whisk. Now, how's the stirring going over here?
Not too bad. Pretty good.
Can you handle it?
I'll try. I'll try my hardest.
Now, are you as much of a culinary expert as your brother here?
I'm just a little bit better.
He taught me everything I know.
All right. That's what I like to hear.
No, I mean, in our household, we love to cook. I mean, my mom, my dad, everyone, my sisters, you know, so it's been a love since we were little kids, sitting at that breakfast table, waiting for mom to plate up breakfast. So it's just incorporated in our everyday lives. Granted, he's a counselor with a master's degree, right, in psychology?
Yeah.
And he's been turned into stirring for this evening, so.
It took me about 1.5 years to train for this event, but you let me know ahead of time, so I'm thankful.
That's good.
Good. Well, you're doing exceptionally well, as far as I can tell.
All right, so now we got a lot of air bubbles in here. We got that volume going. Now I'm gonna start adding sugar. You want this not too sweet, because this is the panettone itself is sweet. So to this I'm gonna add about 1/2 cup of sugar. Now I would recommend the measuring cup if you're doing this at home. I've gotten the hang of eyeballing it.
You've done it a couple times.
A couple times. At least once or twice on Christmas.
Yeah. I used to be able to do that, but then I took an arrow to the knee.
Oh. So now to this we're gonna add a little bit of our heavy cream, or actually our half and half. Well, half and half basically by definition is half milk, half cream. So I like to use that because it gives you a little bit more body and a little bit more richness in the final product.
And one person in the audience didn't know that, so that was a genius tip.
There you go, see? So we're at 5 now. So we're gonna start adding about to this, a little bit around 2 cups.
And you're slowly incorporating it?
Slowly,
And why is that?
just because my arm's getting tired.
All right.
And I don't want any splatter. All right, and now to this I'm gonna add a little bit more of additional raisin.
Why are they golden raisins? What's the difference between a golden raisin and a regular raisin?
Just red and green grapes. That's all.
it?
Yeah.
All right.
That's all. I just prefer golden raisin. It has a little bit sweeter overall product.
Right, much like red and white wine are clearly not the same thing.
Of course, no.
I would know.
No.
There's just a big differences. So there's a difference in flavor that you think is significant.
Exactly. Now, to this, one thing I would recommend, if let's say you're not using panettone, you want to sub it out with some kind of a stale French bread or some kind of a brioche or challah, I would add some sort of an alcohol to it to give that little bit extra kick. Again, I would probably add the star of the evening, the brandy. Or again, amaretto is phenomenal. The sauce also can be made with amaretto. You don't have to have it with brandy, but I just wanted to keep a traditional theme going along for tonight's little breakfast after dark.
Brandy and amaretto, do those sound good, or is there a different alcohol you prefer?
I prefer ouzo. It's a Greek beverage that after about 2 gets me going in the night, so I'm good.
All right. That's exotic. Can you get that in America?
Yeah, if you go to Greek Town, usually they have it, but I think every liquor store should have it.
Fantastic.
Actually,
Well,
it's also good for sautéing too, the ouzo. Like if you're doing like a nice shrimp pasta or something, deglaze a little bit of ouzo, makes a nice little feta cheese. That's tip number 6, as she pointed out over there.
number 6 is another genius tip. You are the man.
All right, now we finished our custard. Angela's still working on the sauce over there. We got our bread. Let's say it's been stale overnight. What I would recommend also doing is adding a little bit of butter, if it's not panettone. The only reason you want to add a little bit of butter, you want to add a little bit more rise. There's a whole science anytime you put something to bake inside the oven is what we call oven spring, which is that important 10 minutes, that first 10 minutes when they tell you never open the oven in the first 10 minutes, it's because all the chemical reactions are going off in there. All the gases are releasing, and you're starting to get, whether it's a chemical leavener or a natural leavener, it starts to give that rise in your cake, whether it's a muffin, a cupcake, a cookie. That's what we call oven spring. So there's a nice little culinary term for you guys to know.
And you thought there were 4 seasons. There's oven spring.
There you go.
And it only exists
In the Kenmore oven.
double oven over here.
Okay, so now our custard's ready. We want bubbles, we want good. If I had a little bit more strength in my arm, I'll let it whisk till as high as the bowl goes. And now we're just gonna start pouring it right over.
Are we okay over here still?
Looking good. It didn't burn, so we're good.
Good, awesome. Great, keep an eye on that. You're in charge. He's the pro here.
He's the
I've
pro.
heard.
He's the saucier, as we'll call him for tonight.
I don't know what that means, so I'm just gonna laugh.
It's just the guy who makes the sauces. That's
Sure.
all.
Sure. Well, that happened.
Okay.
So how are we doing over here?
We're good. What you want now, anytime making a bread pudding, if you want a quick way of making one, if let's say I don't want to look up a recipe, I want to do my own, the best way to do is 2 parts bread to 1 part custard. Okay, so then basically if you're going to use 1 cup custard, use 2 cups of bread. So, and then when you're pouring the liquid in there, what you want to let it sit, and as you can see right here, it's starting to creep up top. For me personally, I would add a little bit more liquid. So
Just so it doesn't come out too dry.
just so it doesn't come out too dry, because you're going to spend about 35-40 minutes in the oven. And I don't like to do a water bath. Some people for their bread puddings like to do a water bath where they'll basically take a larger pan, place a little bit of shallow water, and then stick this inside so it can get moist all the way around. But I feel if you put a little bit, the proper amount of liquid, you can avoid that, because I do like that crispy top on top. Okay, so this, I would say let that sit now for a good 10-15 minutes. So we'll pretend that just happened.
Magic of television,
Let's go like this.
everybody.
Poof. All right. 15 minutes is gone. Get a nice buttered baking pan. I mean, you can use, I like to use aluminum ones that are more easier, because this way there's no mess for mom to clean up, or your wife or your girlfriend. So this way you're just done, toss it in the garbage. So it's a nice, joyous time. Christmas is about time to spend with your family, friends. You don't want to have somebody slaving over a stove, me. You don't want to have somebody stirring sauces, Angelo, or somebody washing like mom and dad. So we've got this buttered, and now we're just gonna start pouring all this nice custardy bread.
I'm a little confused. So panettone is already baked bread, right?
Correct.
But we're gonna bake it again.
We're gonna bake it
That's
again.
okay to do?
It's okay to do, because basically what a bread pudding basically is you're taking, because if you saw, I didn't put any leaveners in here, which is basically like any baking soda, any baking powder or whatever. The leavening is coming from the bread, the eggs, and the interaction with the oven spring that we're calling in there.
Gotcha. All right.
So like as you see right now, this is about half full. It's a very dense product. The end product will have risen and be all the way to the top.
I'm glad you're optimistic about it.
I'm very optimistic. So here we're all set. Again, I like to just put it in the oven just like this. I don't feel like covering it. I don't like sprinkling anything on it. I mean, if I was feeling a little bit gamey, I'd say put a little bit of sugar to get a nice little more of a caramelized top on there.
Let's not go crazy.
It's Christmas. I mean, why not?
Why not?
We've got the brandy here. We're good to go.
Just don't give it to the kids right away.
No. Well, I mean, you can give this to the kids. I wouldn't give them the brandy sauce.
Not so much?
Not so much. I would just give them just simple little fresh whipped cream. So what I'm gonna take it right now is just stick it in the oven. The oven's usually set at around 375 degrees, and we'll let it go for maybe about 35-40 minutes. But the one very important thing that I would recommend anytime you're baking something, don't just go by what the recipe says. If the recipe, let's say, says 30 minutes, don't be like, okay, 30 minutes, done. Test it. Take a little toothpick if it's a cake, poke it, and see if anything sticks to the side. If it comes out clean, take it out, because when you take something out after you're baking, it's still gonna cook for an additional 4 to 5 to 7 minutes. So what we like to call carryover cooking in the culinary world.
This guy's a pro. How many genius tips is that? Do we?
She's keeping track.
I've
Yeah.
lost at least 10. I know. We've got a genius tip counter in the front row here. Maybe at the end we'll count how many there are.
Okay, so let's check right here on Angelo.
How are we doing, Angelo?
Let me see.
So far, so good. I give myself an A+.
I'll
Okay.
give you an A+ too.
So far looks good, so I think
You
he's
don't have
done.
to leave. You can hang out.
He can hang out
Are
to
you
play.
kicking him off?
I'm not kicking him off. It's a family show. He can sit and relax.
I'll give him all the credit, so I'll just go inside. I'll sit in the shadows.
Well, let's
All
hear
right,
it for
thank you, Angelo.
Everybody. You did a great job.
So by the smell of everything, I think our bread pudding smells about ready.
Yes.
Yes?
It is.
You think
It
so?
is.
Okay.
I did check. I think it should be good. Just gonna pull right out of that Kenmore Elite double oven, aren't you?
Kenmore, yeah, double oven. One thing about this, it makes 35 minutes feel like 35 seconds.
Amazing. Amazing how that works.
So now, as we see here, we've got a nice risen product. Smells just the same. You got a nice little crispy topping on top. And the way I like to plate it is, I just like to take a big old spoon, get in there. And here, my hand is my friend. Again, we're serving for family.
As it should be.
As it should be. Take a little bit more of the dried fruit.
That's a genius tip, too.
What's that?
Well, now I have a friend in the holidays. Should have didn't before. Just kidding. That was a joke.
Go
Keep going,
grab this
Frank.
nice little sauce.
Distract everyone from what just happened. Yes,
That's
the
right.
sauce is ready. Now, did you have to whisk it the whole time? You gotta have somebody, or not whisking, but stirring?
Not at all. You can
Oh,
just
you-
leave it sit there.
you
No,
could.
I would recommend stirring it. No, I'm not going to be like that. Because what's going to happen when you put the cornstarch in there, the flame from the bottom will make it stick to the bottom. So you'll scorch the bottom and have a very unappetizing sauce at the end.
No good.
No, like this here, I would have put a little bit more cornstarch because it's a little bit lighter than I would have wanted. But it's okay. It was Angel's first time on camera, so we'll forgive him. No, but now what I like to do usually, take a little bit of the syrup or brandy sauce, pour it on top. Now, if you saw, if it was when it's gonna be a little bit thicker, it would have started forming a little bit better on top of the French toast. Or I'm sorry, the bread pudding.
Bread pudding.
My mind's still on the French toast.
It's okay.
Okay, we'll set
It's
this
okay.
down. Now, what you can also do, this is one way of sampling it, but I'm gonna go back. Sorry for grab some more of those berries
Ooh, some of the berries. Wonderful.
because that would be a nice little addition to it.
Oh yeah, put some red with that gold. Make it look like a Lannister dish. It'll be delicious.
Is that a Game of Thrones reference?
This guy's cultured right there. He understood the obscure reference of the night.
Oh, yeah,
That's like a
see?
genius tip.
There you go.
We just gotta pause for that. I didn't.
See, thank you, guys, thank
use
you.
the genius tips out of the obscure references. It's genius.
And then also, I gotta go back to the fresh whipped cream.
The
See
whole
it?
crowd just went, yeah,
Right on
yeah.
top.
They're all nodding their heads. They're like, yes.
And then here we go. A nice little holiday
You think that's
Panettone
worthy of
bread
a round of
pudding.
applause right there?